Hello! Today we're going to be discussing the anatomy of the endocrine system. Now, the endocrine system is a series of glands and hormones, but as endocrine glands, they don't release these chemicals into the outside world, out of the body. Instead, they release them into the bloodstream, so hence the name endocrine, released to the inside. So these are a series of glands that are spread throughout the entirety of the body. So we're going to start from the top, work our way down, talk about the glands as well as the major hormones they secrete that we're going to talk about in this class. So we're going to start up here in the brain. There are 3 endocrine glands that you're going to be responsible for in the brain. The first is way back here in the posterior diencephalon. This little gland right here is called the pineal gland. The pineal gland secretes something called melatonin. Now this region here, remember from our nervous system, is called the hypothalamus. That hypothalamus, we're not going to discuss any specific hormones, but it releases hormones that affect the pituitary gland as well as your sense of appetite, full and hungry. So hypothalamus there. And then this gland right down here, dangling from the base of the brain right there, is called the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is divided into an anterior and a posterior lobe. The anterior lobe is larger, and there are 6 hormones you're responsible for. The 6 hormones of the anterior pituitary are adrenocorticotropic hormone, which is ACTH, follicle-stimulating hormone, which is FSH, growth hormone, GH, prolactin, luteinizing hormone, also known as LH, and thyroid-stimulating hormone, or TSH. So those are the 6 from the anterior pituitary. Posterior pituitary, you're responsible for knowing 2 hormones. One is oxytocin, the other is vasopressin, also known as ADH, or antidiuretic hormone. So a lot going on there at the pituitary. As a master gland, it tends to release hormones that will control and affect other endocrine glands as well. If we move further inferior, we get to this gland wrapped around the trachea. This is called the thyroid gland. The 2 hormones we're responsible for this class for the thyroid gland are thyroxine, T3 and T4, and calcitonin. On the posterior aspect, on the back of this thyroid, there are 4 little, look like rice grains on that back, and they're called the parathyroid glands. They secrete a hormone called parathormone, or parathyroid hormone. Here on top of the heart, we have a gland called the thymus. Now, it's not shown on this model, but it's located right there above the heart, behind the sternum, and it secretes a hormone called thymosin. Heading down here, we have the pancreas. The pancreas secretes both insulin and glucagon. Not from all of the pancreas, but from little patches of cells called the islets of Langerhans. Now, if we look here on top of the kidneys, we find these glands right here. Those are called the adrenal glands. And the adrenal gland is divided into the medulla in the middle and the cortex on the outside, which function separately. The adrenal cortex will release androgens. It will also release aldosterone and cortisol. Those are the ones that you need to know for this class. The adrenal medulla, on the other hand, secretes epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, and norepinephrine, also known as noradrenaline. So that's what's being secreted there. If we then head all the way down, we get to, in females, here in the pelvic cavity, we have the ovaries. In males, we have the testes. So the ovaries and testes, when we talk about them generally, are known as the gonads. So female gonads are the ovaries, male gonads are the testes. The ovaries will secrete estrogen and progesterone. The testes will secrete testosterone. So that's a general overview of the glands and hormones that you're responsible for knowing for this class.